Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Manny here once again. Welcome back to another WNBA lineup advice video here for you guys at DFS Zone. And before I get started, I appreciate you guys drop a like. And of course, if you have not subscribed as of yet to the channel, please do so down below. And don't forget to turn on those post notifications. This way you do not miss any of my new uploads or live shows. With that being said, today is Friday, August the 17th, 2018. We have a 5-game slate as we are now down to the last 3 days of WNBA action for this season. Playoffs begin next week. We've got a couple of playoff implication games here today that are important for certain teams. And before I go over the slate, just a little bit of news. I normally do a live stream. I told you guys that we're going to do a live stream today. I totally forgot. When I said that, I was not thinking. Today happens to be my oldest child. My son is getting married today, so I am not gonna be able to do a live stream at all today. I'm actually gonna do this video as quickly as I can and get myself ready because I have to be at a ceremony by 1:30 New York time. So and it's about almost 11 o'clock. So again, no live stream today. I may jump in here tomorrow, maybe. There's only one game tomorrow on the slate, so maybe I haven't decided on doing any lineups for that. But if I do decide to do that, I may pop in there, so be on the lookout. Maybe I might just pop in here at around maybe, I think it starts at 3 or 4 o'clock. Let's say 4 o'clock, I think is the schedule. If that is the case, it'll be about an hour before that. So maybe we can chit-chat, go over what went down today, and at the same time be able to interact and see if we can draw up some lineups real quick online. Okay, live. All right, so look for that. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow, considering that I will be home. And then Sunday will be possibly another live stream. I don't know what FanDuel is going to do as far as contests are concerned. There are some games a little early, and there's some games later in the day. So they may split them up and do 2 separate slates. But we can discuss the whole slate if you guys want. Maybe I'll do a live stream an hour before the first game starts. So something to consider. We'll talk about that more if I come on tomorrow. And if I do decide to do that and I don't come on tomorrow, I will post it on Instagram, a Facebook group, as well as a Facebook page, and even on Twitter. So be on the lookout for that. All right, so that's pretty much the news right now. All right, so let's get to these slates, man. We got here Minnesota, Connecticut. Implied totals are 164, with Connecticut favored at home by 7. These teams have played each other twice this year, and Connecticut has won both games. Minnesota comes in 7th as the 7th seed. They're 17-15, 9-7 on the road. Over the course of the last 5 games, they're 2-3, and they have played 2 games on the road, and they have split 1 game apiece. Connecticut is coming in. They're 4th in the standings, 19-13. They are a pretty good team at home, 11-4 on the season. Over the course of the last 5 games, they're 4-1, and during the course of those 5 games, they've played 3 games at home, and they're 3-0. So they're playing excellent basketball at the right time. When they played each other this season, these are the team totals. Minnesota gave up to Connecticut 51 points to the front court and 34.5 points to the back court. Connecticut gave up 52.5 points to Minnesota's front court. So both teams definitely put up over 50 on average on both games. So expect some front court scoring more so than in the back court in this game. And then they held down Minnesota's backcourt to only 15 points per game. So that's really tough. But then again, those were only 2 games against each other. That's, going up against one another. In the last 3 games, Connecticut has been holding opponents to 47 points per game in the front court and 33.5 points to the back court, while Minnesota has been holding their opponents to 50.8, nearly 51 points per game to the front court, which they're still having a little bit of trouble there. So you can definitely target and consider possibly Connecticut there, and 32.4 points per game to the back court. All right. So when I look at this game, I'm just gonna go through them as quickly as possible. And before I go on any further, team stats right here, guys. Okay, take a close look at them. You can always rewind, pause the video. These are all the latest stats on these teams. These are the matchups, as you can see. Okay, all the green means all. You will be able to determine that they are green because they have an advantage. All right, and then down here I put opposition field goal percentage and opposition 3-point shooting percentage. So as you can see, LA here is the best at defending the 3 at 30.7%. So that definitely is a problem for Washington. And Washington happens to be the 3rd best here in this actual slate with 33.5. So maybe not look too much so at the LA-Washington games for backcourt 3-point shooting. All right, maybe you'll look somewhere else. So you look at the matchups, and then you look at the matchups here, and you decide that as you go 3-point shooting here. Maybe here, Seattle with the New York poor defending against 3-point shooting. So just for an example. So definitely pause, come back, look at this, and jot down those numbers if you need to. Do your due diligence, all right? Considering I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot. And then over here, real quickly on my Fantasy Cruncher, these are the girls that I'm looking at. This is my player pool. As you can see, 91 players in this 5-game slate. I've narrowed it down to 30 for you guys. But the ones with the thumbs up are the ones that I'm favoring the most. So as you can see here at guard, I kind of like McBride, Bonner, Diggins Smith, Lloyd. And then on the bottom tier, I like Montgomery, Nurse, Strickland, and Mariah Jefferson. And then, of course, there's some girls in between. So definitely consider all those girls. And then over here in the front court, you can see all the players. And then I have definitely a lot more. It's a lot more selections here. Definitely tougher decisions to be made here. Definitely more research that needs to be done. So, you know, these are the ones that I like here with the thumbs up. I favor those going into the matchup. So then again, same thing here. Just rewind, pause it after you listen to the video. Always listen to the video as much as you can. I notice a lot of people they don't listen to the video long enough. I'm giving you a lot of information. And, you know, if you're just looking for plays, it's not going to work just like that. You're definitely going to have to do, I always expect you guys to go and do your due diligence as well. All right, so let's go here. Minnesota, Connecticut, like I said. I think I gave you the numbers already. Yes, I did. All right, so Jasmine Thomas. Out of the girls here, right away, the Connecticut, you look at Connecticut versus Minnesota, you're definitely going to think you got a shot here with Thomas and Williams. Yes, you can use any one of the two. I will favor Courtney Williams the most. I'm not going to touch any more on that. I think she's in a better position here. Courtney Williams is averaging 48% field goal percentage at home. So she's pretty darn good at home, and 48% at home from 3. She's definitely better at home in a lot of aspects, and over the course of the last few games, she's at 50. And in the games against Minnesota, she shot 50% from the floor and 50% from 3. So that I'm basing it on that. And then considering that she's put about 25, 26 fantasy points against Connecticut in the 2 games, against Minnesota in the 2 games. So I'd like see Will here come down a little lower. I definitely like Miss Strickland as well. At 4,000, you need 20. Not so much so on the numbers that she's put. She has definitely done pretty good here. 2 games out of the last 4, 20 or more. She has good upside, but I like that she's also had a little bit of success against these guys as well. 45% shooting and 47% shooting from 3 over the course of 2 games, and with a 13 fantasy point production. And then as of late, she's actually been a little bit more involved. So I definitely think she is in a good spot as well. Other than that, that's basically it. We go right to the forwards. Like I said, I'm making this quick. I'm telling you what I think, because it's a 5-game slate. You're really going to have to be a little choosy here, you know. So there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of, you know, this is not a game where you just say, hey, you know what, everybody's in play. I'm going to basically tell you what I think right now are the best plays per game. Forward here, Fouls, Moore, Alyssa Thomas, Ogumake. Like always, those girls are in play. Jonquel Jones, but I've narrowed this down. I definitely love Sylvia Fowles in this game. 57% field goal percentage, 66 from the free throw line is pretty poor, but she's averaging 11 rebounds and 35 fantasy points in 2 games against this team, and we know she has 50-point upside, you know. So I really like that more. I like that more than what I see from Moore. I have Maya Moore has been averaging 47 and 38 over the last couple of games. She is improved here in point total. She is definitely putting more than 32. Her fantasy average has been good for 4 straight games. So you can base it on that, or you can base it also on how well she's done against the opponent. And she's really struggled against Connecticut. Connecticut has given her a rough time. Against Connecticut, she's 8 of 29 shooting, 27%, and 3 of 11 from 3, only 27%, only averaging 21 or more, 21, 22, somewhere around 21, 22 fantasy points per game. That's a little scary for me. Now, granted, she can come off today, but again, one of those games was also without Miss Thomas in there. But Sylvia Fowles, I really like the upside here. She's only 8,100, so her price has come down a little bit, and she's been playing her best basketball as of late. So it is all a matter of how well does Connecticut defend her today. So I like Sylvia Fowles here. And then when you come down here to the bottom, I'm not on Thomas or Ogumake. I think they're both fine plays, and I think Shanae Ogumake is probably the better play, but I'm going right down to Jonquel Jones. I've been telling you guys all along, she has been very, very good, and she continues to be very, very good. The longer she gets me more than 1 fantasy point per minute and still have the upside to get me 30 plus or give me 6 or 7x or better, I am happy with that. So Jonquel Jones, just keep doing what you're doing, girl. And Connecticut, keep putting her in there in those positions where she could be successful. 6.5K, you need about 32, 33. She's 4 straight games at 28 plus. That's way above her average. All right. At home, she's shooting 61% and 59% from 3 this season. And in the games against Minnesota, 57% and 50% from 3. So the numbers have been really good against Minnesota. And then not only that, she's been playing so well now as of late. I know they're going to try to probably key up on her, but it's a lot to key up when you got Thomas, Ogumake, and Jones. I definitely like here Jones for Connecticut, and I like Sylvia Fowles for Minnesota. Hands down. Down here at the bottom, I have no value or no thought process on any of these girls in a 5-game slate. Let's move on to game number 2. We got LA at Washington. We got implied totals of 157.5 with Washington at home favored by 3. All right, Washington comes in 3rd seed. They're 21-11. They're 11-5 at home, and they have won 7 straight games. They are probably the hottest team in the WNBA right now, other than Atlanta. Okay. LA comes in. They're the 5th seed. They're 19-13. They are 8. They're 8-7 on the road. All right. In the course of the last 5 games, they are 4-1. So they're definitely playing well as well. This is probably a game that you could definitely target as a game stack. I see opportunity here, and I see this being a fairly competitive game. So I want to just make sure I point that out right now. These teams have played each other 2 times, and both teams has won 1 game apiece. All right, so they're split the games, and they're kind of evenly matched in a lot of areas. Definitely a tough game to gauge if you're going to just look at all 5 games and try to get the best plays out of this game. You know, there's going to be a couple of decent plays, but I think it's more of, hey, you know, grab it and do a team stack, a game stack, and I think it'll be a nice strategy to use here today in this 5-game slate. All right, over the course of they played each other twice, like I said. LA 53 points per game given up to Washington in the front court and 31 points in the back court in the 2 games. And then look at this. Washington giving up 53 points per game in the front court and 31.5 in the back court. Pretty much even all the way across the board in the 2 games. The difference in the 2 games is that one, Christy Tolliver had a game where she was very aggressive and got up to the foul line and made a lot of foul shots. And then there was one game where everything went for LA. They shot 60% or better from the floor and more than 40 or more percent from 3, and they just couldn't miss a shot. And that's the difference between the 2 teams. Other than Washington also out-rebounding LA in that win for Washington. All right, so again, so pretty even across the board there. Over the course of the last 3 games, you got to gauge that as well. Washington has given up only 47 points per game to the front court, so they have definitely tightened up their defense up there, and 32.8 points to the backcourt, which is obviously a point and a half more than what they were giving up to LA in the 2 games. LA, on the other hand, has given up 51 points to the front court over the course of the last 3 games, and they've been even better in the backcourt, only giving up 23.5 points per game. So a tough game for the backcourts, and I think more so a little bit maybe more competitive and kind of balanced in the front court. I am, to be totally honest with you, I am willing to fade in this game. If you're looking at all 5 games, these are tough matchups. I'm willing to fade on Gray and Tolliver in this game, to be totally honest with you. So I'm not saying they're not in play. Look at do your due diligence. If you are interested in this game, you could go that route. But they both are tough against defending threes, and their field goal percentage against one another has been really, really tough in the backcourt. So I am kind of fading these 2 girls and paying down. And then when we come down here to the bottom, the only one I would consider is Miss Monique Carey. Okay? So she's the only one other than Miss Williams. And I kind of like Miss Williams here at 3,700. You need 16 or 17. She's playing more than 20 minutes, and she's capable of getting you 25 or better. She's at least hitting value. 15 and 14 is very close to value, and that's more than her average to start with. So I kind of like her here. And then let's see what she's done against Washington real quickly. She did play 18 minutes. He only got 1.5. And the first game she played 12 minutes and got 16, so more than 1 fantasy point per minute. So there is that possibility. I kind of like her there. I like her more than I like Curry, but between these two here, you got some value there. I think Monique Curry, the longest double A is out, or even if Natasha Cloud misses some time or not able to play an entire game, I think she's playing. I think Ariel Atkins may still be out. So I still see Curry getting some time. And of course, do not forget, like I said in the last game, Ruffin Pratt is in play at 3,600. I did tell you that Monique Curry will probably play more minutes and be more effective, and she did. And I actually had her, and it worked out for me. You know, I pulled out a couple of games the other day. So Ruffin Pratt, someone to consider, but I definitely like those girls there. We go to the forward spot, trying to get through here real quickly. Della Don, Candice Dupree, Latoya Sanders, and Ogwumike all in play. I'm not interested in anybody else here other than those 4 girls. Now, who do I think is the best play? I am leaning towards Candice Parker, $100 cheaper than Della Don, and these are some of the factors why. Della Don is averaging 39 for 4 straight games, which is pretty darn good. She's had 2 40-plus games over the course of those last 4 games. Okay, so you can see that 2 games in a row. All right, in the last 3 games, she's averaging 59% and 55% from 3, and she's averaging 40 fantasy points per game. Pretty solid. So you can go with either or. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Miss Parker. She's shooting 39. Well, let me go back to Della Don. Della Don versus LA is only shooting 46% from the floor and 33% from 3, and only has 7 rebounds. All right. She's also better at home. She's better at home shooting than she is on the road. Okay, as she's shooting 51% and 46 at home. So that's a concern there. She's, she actually shoots better at home. So again, she's someone you could definitely play. $100 more expensive. Either one of these two is a pick 'em. I'm just leaning towards Miss Parker, so I'm going with Parker. 39% field goal percentage, 45%. Versus Washington, she's shooting 45%, 40 from the floor, and 40% from 3, with 7 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, and averaging 37 fantasy points per game. But what I like more so is that she 3-point shooting on the road is actually a little bit better. Okay, so I mean that's what I like, and not only that, she's averaging in the last 3 or 4 games, she's averaging just 2 more fantasy points per game. And I just look at the graph here, and you look at this, and she's been just more expressive. She's been over 40 and been at 50 over the last 5, 6, 7 games. And then you look at Della Don, and I love Della Don. She's a cutie pie and all, but you know those numbers don't look the same. Okay, just a little bit higher on Candice Parker. So I like Candice Parker more. Then when I get down here to the bottom, Ogwumike or Sanders, obviously you're looking at those 2 girls. I like Sanders. I think Sanders is the better play. Latoya, Miss Sanders, 40, 36, 41, 33, 30. Okay, look at those 5 last games. That's pretty much an average of about 30, I would say about 30, maybe 36, Paulie? No, not even, like maybe 34. Okay, 34 pretty much in the last few games. Not only that, okay, let's look here. LA, where are you? LA, 28 and 24 minutes. And 29 and 24 minutes. Both games over 1 fantasy point per minute. And then when you look at Ogwumike, she's not been at that 31 average that often. Just once, twice. As you can see, since she came back from the illness, she has not been really consistent. So that's a concern for me. And then on top of that, I digged even a little bit deeper just for you guys. 63% at home shooting for Miss Sanders against LA in the 2 games. 70% from the floor, averaging 9.5 rebounds a game and 30 fantasy points. I mean, so hands down, Latoya Sanders is definitely in play. Is my favorite play there. We go to game number 3. We got Las Vegas at Dallas. This is for the last playoff spot. Granted, even if Las Vegas wins, they're definitely going to need to win or hope Dallas loses the following game, because they'll be even. Then they're going to have to go to another tiebreaker. If they both end up with the same record, they'll have both one win, a win apiece. But, you know, it's all about, I guess, a matter of total points or something like that after that, or percentage points against opponents. But Las Vegas at Dallas. Okay. Implied totals I have here, 175.5 with Dallas favored by 3.5. Dallas is coming in. They're the 8th seed. They're tied for the 8th spot with Las Vegas. They're 14 and 18, 9 and 7 at home, and they have lost 9 straight games. That's the biggest concern. 9 straight losses. All right. These teams have played 2 games, and actually Dallas has won both games, 77-67 and 97-91. Las Vegas is coming in. They are tied with the same record, 14-18. They're 6-10 on the road, so they're not that great of a road team. But over the course of the last 5 games, they're 2-3, and they've won 2 straight. So, let's hope that will help. I like Las Vegas here, with Dallas being, just slumping for so long. They have played the 2 games. In the 2 games, Dallas put up 57 points in the front court against Vegas and 30 backcourt points. Vegas averaged 34 points per game in the front court, very surprising, and 45 in the backcourt. So they definitely had trouble with Las Vegas backcourt players, but didn't have no problem with Asia Wilson and company in the front court, and that's understandable. They have, with Azare Stevens, in the front court, Glory Johnson and Cam Beach. It could be tough. So I am not favoring too much the front court of Las Vegas. I still think that Asia Wilson definitely is someone to consider, but I definitely love Liz Cambage more. Over the course of the last 3 games, Dallas 51.5 points per game given up to forwards and centers, and 36.8, nearly 37 points per game to the backcourt. And then you got the last 3 games, you have Las Vegas giving up 48.2 points per game to the front court and 41 whopping points to the backcourt. So go figure. Vegas has been scoring 45 in 2 games against Dallas. In the meantime, Dallas they've been giving up 41 points per game now over the course of the last few games. So really, really surprising. Definitely some numbers to look over. All right, we go to the guards here. I like McBride here. Last 3 games, she's averaging 40. Last 3 games, she had not a great game here, but again against New York, I mean, they were winning pretty much the game, throughout the whole game, and obviously she didn't need to play a whole lot of minutes. Neither did Asia Wilson, because everybody contributed and they had such a nice lead against New York. But 32-30, as you can see, she got 30 points. She's averaging at least near her range 3 out of the last 5 games. She has 40-point upside. When she's away, she shoots 45%. Her shooting is better. Away also with 3-point shooting, 37%. Well, she's 30% on the road. She's 41% shooting the 3, and at home 37%. So she's definitely going to be gearing up here. And top of that, like I show you here with the team stats, Dallas. I mean, Dallas here. Where is it? Dallas giving up 35% to 3-point shooters this year. So I mean, definitely a good spot for Kayla McBride to have a really big game. I think Kayla and Diggins Smith are both in play, but I like Kayla a little bit more. So definitely consider Kayla McBride. Against Dallas, she's shooting 60%, and she is 4 from 4 from 3. She's shooting 100% from 3 in 2 games. She's only taken 4 threes, and she's had hit all 4 of them. And she's averaging 41 fantasy points against them, pretty much 41, 42 fantasy points. So Kayla McBride in play. Diggins Smith is in play, but I am not going to go over her because I like McBride. I want to just touch on the ones I like. I think a very sneaky play here could be Alicia Gray. If Diggins Smith is not shooting well, or if they happen to key up on Smith and make it difficult for her to get off her shot and get consistent, this can open up the doors for Alicia Gray. So at 5,400, I think she's someone to consider here. She's 25, 20. You need about 27 from her, and she's hit 31 and 34 respectively over the last 2 games, playing massive minutes, especially in the last game, knowing that they even had Cam Beige. She still played massive minutes. So we know that backcourt is usually just Gray and Diggins Smith. If Diggins Smith's not coming off, maybe Gray is. And I think if Gray's going to give me 30 or 25 to 30 at this price, I'd rather pay that than to pay, for a 30, 35 spot at 7,300 for Diggins Smith, And Gray comes in versus Vegas. Her numbers are not looking that good, but over the course of the last 3 games, 42% shooting, 30% from 3, and averaging about 21 fantasy points over the course of the last 3 or 4 games against opponents. And then of course I show you she's had 2 30-plus games. So Alicia Gray is someone that I definitely am considering. On the lower end of the spectrum here, definitely Mariah Jefferson. She usually gets 15 to 20 minutes, and she usually gets close to 1 fantasy point per minute, maybe about 85 or 90.90, but she's pretty close. So I can see her here as being quick. This is her being a quick backcourt player definitely can help here in this game against Dallas. And that's pretty much it. Front court, plain and simple, man. I'm fading the Dallas players. I told you I wasn't going to get on them anymore this year. Obviously, some of them are in play like Azare Stevens, but I am all over Wilson and Cambage, and I love Cambage here. They're both the same price, and I think Cambage definitely with the 60-point upside. You know, she did put 38 in 31 minutes against Vegas, and 60 pointer in, where is it? Vegas, right here. 60.6 in 36 minutes in game 1, and in game 2, 37 and 31, more than 1 fantasy point per minute, really smashing numbers. So Liz Cambage is definitely in play against Vegas. Against Vegas, she's shooting 58%, and the key numbers are 2.5 blocks per game in the 2 games, 14 rebounds per game. That's big because Vegas, you know, they definitely suffer in the front court with rebounding. And if Cambage is going to go out there and get 13 or 14 rebounds against this team, that's going to definitely help them. And 2.5 blocks a game is fantastic, and she's averaging 48.5 fantasy points per game against Vegas this year. So Liz Cambage for me is my favorite play here, but Asia Wilson is definitely a play, younger. You know, she's had decent games against Dallas. Last 3 games, she's been shooting 43% and 44% and 41% from 44% from the floor. Away, she actually does pretty well away. She's shooting 47% on the road and averaging about 35 fantasy points. But against Dallas this year, I like the big number I like here. She got 9 rebounds in both of the games on average. She had 5 assists, and she also helped out with 3.5 blocks per game. So that's 7 blocks in 2 games against Dallas. So it's going to be very interesting. But I think Cambage with the upside, we know that Asia Wilson could get you 50, maybe even 55, but Cambage could get you 60 or better. And this is a big game, man. This is another game these are the 2 games that I think are the best ones to game stack. If you're not going to stack up on that LA Washington game, definitely Las Vegas Dallas. And I wouldn't be I think another strategy would be is to use a combination of players from both of these 2 games, because these games are going to be fairly competitive. They're very important for Washington and LA. They're 3 and 4 in the standings, and then you got these 2 teams battling for that last playoff spot. So those are big games. Okay, guys, and that's pretty much it there. Other than that, I kind of like Stevens or Swords, and I'm leaning more towards Swords at 4,300. You know, Caroline Swords, her numbers have been pretty good. 4,300. You need about 21, 22, and she's been getting sufficient enough minutes for that. 13 to as much as 26 minutes, averaging 19 to as high as 20 fantasy points. Pretty steady there. Definitely smashing her average. And as long as she keeps getting minutes, and she's pretty much at times been close to 1 fantasy point per minute. So not too bad. Caroline Swords, and in a game like this, big game for Vegas, and going up against Liz Cambage, you could definitely expect a nice heavy dose of Caroline Swords here. All right. Hamby may be a possible play, and that's pretty much it. I am not on anybody else. All right. New York, Seattle. Don't have implied totals for this game because obviously this game is going to be probably a blowout, at least from when I last looked. But going in, New York is 7 and 25. They're 3 and 12 on the road. They have lost 11 straight games. They're the worst team in the league as far as how they've been playing over the course of the last 11 games, obviously. They're 11th in the standings. Seattle comes in. They're number 1 in the league, 24 and 8 record with an 11 and 4 record at home. And in the last 4 games, they're 4 and 1. These teams have played each other twice, and Seattle has won both games 96-80 and 77-62. All right. When the 2 games that played against each other, New York gave up 55.5 points per game to the front court players of Seattle and 33 to the back court. Seattle gave to New York 41.5 points per game to the front court and 30 to the back court. Obviously, all advantages are showing to Seattle. If you look at the team stats, you can see that as well. Everything is just all green here. So, I mean, I don't expect New York to be in it, but we all know, we've discussed this here a number of times at the live show and on DFS Zone. Just plain and simple, New York is a grindy team. They keep battling. They can make teams games really tough on some teams. I would think they're going to come in here and going to play a tough game. I expect Seattle to, definitely have to play really well to win this game at home, but I don't see no reason for them not winning. When we go actually to the game itself, I'm looking at Lloyd and Bird. Any one of the 2, hands down, they're definitely in play. Lloyd is averaging 1 fantasy point per minute versus New York in the 2 games, and she's shooting 44% and 36% from 3, averaging 35 fantasy points in those 2 games. Let's see if I can get that here. And New York, where are you? Well, we have 1. Yeah, no, we got them both here. New York, 31 minutes, 41 fantasy points, and then in game 1, right down here, 30 and 27. So I mean, very solid, not overwhelming numbers. We know she can get about 40 on this team. I'm looking at her at 30 to 35 today, and I can see Sue Bird getting close to 30 as well. So any one of the two, you cannot go wrong. Sue Bird put 32 spot in the last game against New York, and 21 in the first game. And in the last 3 games, she has been better than Jewel Lloyd, shooting 59% from the floor and 53% from 3, averaging about 24 fantasy points per game over the course of the last 3 games. So Sue Bird definitely in play at 6,800. You know me already. I don't like any of the New York guards. You don't know who's going to go off. The other day was Sugar Rogers. And then, there's times that it's Boyd and sometimes it's Nurse. It's just up and down. So the bottom line here, I'll stay safe. If you're going to play with somebody, you're going to choose anybody. Obviously, Kia Nurse. Kia Nurse has done well against this team. All right. Versus Seattle in the last game, she put a 30 spot in 36 minutes. And she shot 44%. Over the last 3 games, she's shooting 44% from the floor and 33% from 3. And on top of that, versus Seattle, she put up she averaged in the 2 games 61%, 8 of 13 from the floor, and 66% from 3, shooting just 3 threes, but hitting 2 out of the 3, averaging close to 18 fantasy points per game. So at 4,400, needing about 21, 22, I think Kia Nurse is definitely still a fine play for New York, in this game. Right down, nobody else I'm interested in. Like I said, I'm trying to give you the best possible plays. Obviously, Breanna Stewart is in play. She's definitely hands down 7,900. She put a 53 spot or 54 spot in the last game. 53 against New York. 52 and 44. I mean, hands down. I mean, she's handling New York. And if there's no Tina Charles, it's going to even be worse. So I definitely think Breanna Stewart is in play, hands down. I also love Natasha Howard. 6 out of her last 7 games, she's averaging 31 plus, which is her average. She's been smashing it quite a bit here. 38 here, 45, 58, 38, 43, 44. I mean, she does all the blocking. She steals. She's a great defender. She rebounds. She had 2 off games here with rebounding, but still 8 and 10. She's more of that 6 to 8 range on a regular basis. And she's done well, not too bad against New York. At home, she's actually a pretty good player too. 57% shooting from the floor and actually 30% from 3. Versus New York, she shot 53% in those 2 games, has averaged 3 blocks a game and 2 steals. Come on, I had to highlight that. 3 blocks and 2 steals average against New York in the 2 games, averaging 36 fantasy points per game. So hands down, if you're not willing to pay up for Stewart, definitely Howard, especially if the game gets out of hand and becomes a blowout this time around. The last time they played, New York gave them a battle for about 3.5 quarters. So, it could very much be, and that's great for us fantasy point players. We want to see Stewart and Howard in a mismatch, still out there on the floor battling all the way to the end and gaining us as much fantasy points as possible. So, we want to see that. So, definitely, if you're not Stewart, on Howard. Other than that, I am not on anybody else. Possibly Stokes again or Rebecca Allen. I do not like Kia Vaughn or Clark. And that's pretty much it. Atlanta, Phoenix, last game of the night. Atlanta implied totals for this one, 168.5. Phoenix is favored by 4 at home. I don't get it. They're not a good home team, but I guess, the benefit of the doubt that they're going to play a big game against Atlanta. We'll see. Phoenix is coming in 6th seed. They're 18 and 14 and 7 and 8 at home. The worst home team record from the teams that are battling for the playoff spots. They're the worst. They're 7 and 8 out of the 8 teams that are trying to make the playoffs. They're the 6th seed, and they have a losing record at home. It's just remarkable. All right, so 18 and 14 in the last 5 games. They're 3 and 2, and they have won actually 2 straight. They look pretty good in the 2 games. Atlanta's coming in. They're the 2nd seed. They definitely don't want to relinquish that. So Atlanta is going to play hard, guys. They're going to play hard. This is a tough matchup for Phoenix. 22 and 10, 9 and 6 on the road, a good winning record, 6 straight wins, and we know they've won like 10 out of the last 12. They've been just on fire. Them and Washington have been the 2 hottest teams in the WNBA. All right. When they played each other, Atlanta gave up to Phoenix in the front court 43 points per game. Only in the 2 games, only 43 points per game, and 31 to the backcourt. Phoenix were even just as good. 35.5 points in the front court to Atlanta, which is shocking, but a massive 38, almost 39 fantasy points, points per game to the guards. So I like Atlanta guards in this game, and I like Phoenix guards, but I like Atlanta's guards better, and I'm only gearing myself up to like 1 or 2. All right, but we're gonna discuss that right now. over the course of the last 3 games, Phoenix has been giving up 43 points per game to the forwards and centers and 50 points per game to guards over the last 3 games. It's just crazy. They have having their issues back there, and this is why I like Atlanta here as far as the guards are concerned. And I actually like Atlanta in the front court too. 31 Atlanta, 46.5 points per game to the front court and 31 to the back court. All right, so the guards. So I'm going to tell you who's the best plays here. So hands down, Tarazi's in play, but I'd rather pay $100 cheaper and get Dewana Bonner. Remember, Dewana Bonner plays the 3, plays the 4, plays some 5. She does play the backcourt as well, so she does a little bit of everything. I like what she brings to the table. Over the last 3 games, she's averaging 50% from the floor, so she's actually shooting well. And her numbers have been pretty good, 48, 41, 241-plus games in the last 3 games. Okay. At home, she's shooting 43% from the floor. She does shoot better on the road from 3. Okay. And against Atlanta, she's put up 34 fantasy points on average. She's pretty good at almost nearly 1 fantasy point per minute. I don't think all her Atlanta stuff is here. Atlanta here, yeah, 28 in 34 minutes, 9, 7, 3, 1, and 2. Just filling up the stat sheet. Not an enormous night that day, but she's in a good position here. Atlanta giving up in the last... Atlanta's been steady. Like I told you already in the beginning notes, team stats, 31 points to guards over the course of the last 3 games, 31. And against Phoenix, they've given up only 31. So you're going to look at only the players that have hurt them that much, and it's been Taurasi and Bonner been a little bit more. So I like Bonner. That's, so that's the bottom line. Over here for Atlanta, obviously Hayes, Sykes, Bentley, Montgomery are all in play. I really like Montgomery the most here. She has tremendous upside. She has shot the ball pretty well as of late. All right, she's averaging in the last 3 games 53% shooting from the floor and 53% from 3. That's very impressive, averaging about 27 to 28 fantasy points per game, as you can see here. If you combine this, it's going to be like nearly almost like 30 points per game. She's been playing really, really well, and even slightly more than that. So the last 3 games has definitely been hands down very good. Against Phoenix, she's shooting 44% and 57% from 3 and average 23 points. Over here, 21 in 32 minutes, and game 1 is obviously a little bit more further back. It'll be on the fantasy cruncher, but she's had good outings. I would also say be careful with Brittany Sykes or Tiffany Hayes, but I like Montgomery the best, and I think one of these girls is going to have a great game, and I just feel Renee Montgomery is the right person to go with right here. That's just the way I feel about it as far as numbers are concerned. In the forward spot, not much to discuss here. Brittany Griner obviously in play for Phoenix. In 2 games against Phoenix, man, 2 games against Atlanta, she's only averaging 48% from the floor, averaging only 6 rebounds. What I do like is that she's been averaging 2.5 blocks, 2.5 blocks a game, and about 1 steal a game. And she's below her average. As you can see, 39 here. She did have a 51 spot here and a 52, but she's been in between 30, 29. And against Atlanta, it's been pretty much the same. She's averaging in the 2 games like 33, 34 fantasy points, and that's 5, 6 points below her average. So Atlanta definitely is a little stifling on her, and that was with McCautry on board. And I think Atlanta is going to be fine, even with just Breland and Elizabeth Williams. And having McGee Stafford come off the bench, I think they're going to be still pretty tough. So I'm willing to fade Griner here because I kind of like 1 or 2 of the. I like Cambage more, and Brianna Stewart is in a better matchup, as well as you could have a choice here of Candice Dupree or Della Don. I think those are better plays. I would not be surprised. She is capable of getting you 50 or more. We know that. I just think it's still, to me, I just feel that's just still a tough matchup. I like those other girls better. But Jessica Breland is someone to consider here, man. I love Breland and Elizabeth Williams here. 7,300, you need about 36, 37. Granted, she's probably not going to get 36, 37, but she's been close to that. 34, 34, and 36, and 40. 4 straight games at 34 plus. That's way past her average. So she's definitely meeting price, at least close to price. In the games against Phoenix, she averaged 2 blocks per game. Only about 26, 27 fantasy points, which is close to her. But this was way back. Remember, Phoenix, last time she played Phoenix was about 5 weeks ago. So it's a long time ago. This team is playing so much better right now. So anything can happen. It could be totally raw on it. I mean, but she is in a good spot, man. 28 for 20. I mean, she put 28 in 24 minutes the last time. Here you go, 27.8. That is still freaking great. I like her here. I think that that's going to be a tough match. As far as rebound is concerned, Bonner is going to have to get in here and get a little bit of physical, and they're going to need some help. Phoenix up front, either Little or Robinson, somebody's going to have to come through to give them some help, because Breland and Elizabeth Williams, they are just torturous with defending. I mean, these girls contest every shot. Any shot that they're close to, they're going to contest it. 6,600 for her. She's been pretty much at this price for a while, and she's putting up numbers. 23, 43, 53, 24. I mean, she's 35 versus in the 4 straight games, 23 plus or 50 plus in 2 out of the last 4 games. 35 fantasy points versus Phoenix in the last game. And right here, 35 in 23 minutes. And then she's shooting 37% versus Phoenix. Not big. Not big numbers, but she is playing so well as of late, and as a unit, Atlanta's playing so well, and these 2 girls, and then knowing that they got to keep that 2 seed. This is an important game for Atlanta. I see these girls definitely competing here. Billings, Stafford, possible low value plays, you know, and that's basically it. That's basically it, guys. That's the best I can do, man. So again, I apologize. No live video, no live show today. I will probably pop in there tomorrow. We'll see what happens. I will just pop in an hour and 15 minutes beforehand, and you at least will know. But the bottom line, that's pretty much it. You know, good luck with the slate. Wish you guys a lot of luck. And please, you know, of course, like always, drop a like, man. I mean, we get quite a bit of views here, but not enough likes. That will definitely help me out a lot with my channel as it continues to grow with all the algorithms and all that other stuff. I mean, it's very important that I get those likes. And at the same time, man, hey, if you have never been here before, again, really quick, not as much information, but I gave you the best possible information in the short period of time. Again, drop a like, definitely subscribe to the channel, and again, I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow.